Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about climate. The press is full of stories right now that the Arctic is record hot and Arctic ice is at a record low. Let's look now at the data and see if these claims are true. This is the current sea ice extent graph from the Danish Meteorological Institute. This year is shown in black with the most recent month shown in red. If you look over here on the right side, you can see that Arctic sea ice extent is the highest for the date in the past 5 years. And extent is also just below the gray band, which represents the 2 standard deviation range. In other words, Arctic sea ice extent is normal. This is the latest Arctic sea ice extent map from the National Snow and Ice Data Center at the University of Colorado. You can see that Arctic ice extent is very close to the 1981 to 2010 median ice edge, which is shown in orange. In other words, Arctic sea ice extent is very close to normal. This graph shows growth in sea ice from November 1st to December 13th for the past 13 years. The numbers are from the Multi-Agency Sea Ice Index dataset. The data in that dataset begins on January 1st, 2006. This autumn has seen the 3rd fastest growth on record, and last year was the 4th fastest. What we're seeing is the exact opposite of a meltdown. The ice is growing very quickly. The press is also claiming extreme ice melt in Greenland. Let's look at the Greenland data now and see if there's any truth to these claims. This graph shows the latest Greenland surface mass balance from the Danish Meteorological Institute. That is the difference between the amount of snow accumulating on Greenland's surface and the amount melting. The blue line shows what's been going on since September 1st. Greenland's surface has gained nearly 250 billion tons of new snow since September 1st. And that's sitting right on top of the 1981 to 2010 mean, in other words, normal. This next graph shows the surface mass balance for the past 4 years. Last year, shown in red, was below average, but the previous 2 years, 2017 and 2018, were well above average. And this year, shown in yellow, is right at average. What we can see from this graph is that over the past 4 years, the total surface mass balance in Greenland has been above average. That tells us that more snow is accumulating on the surface of Greenland than is melting. Greenland is not having a meltdown. This next graph shows temperatures over the last month in the center of the Greenland ice sheet. Temperatures there have been averaging about minus 40 degrees over the past month. If these journalists sitting in their warm fossil fuel powered offices in New York and London spent the winter in Greenland, they would probably have a completely different impression about what's going on there. Greenland's 2 most famous glaciers are growing. This animation shows ice growth at the Petermann Glacier over the past 7 years. The Petermann Glacier has been growing nearly 1 kilometer per year. And Greenland's Jakobshavn Glacier is also growing. The fastest shrinking glacier in Greenland has made an unexpected turn. Although it's been melting for 20 years, the Jakobshavn Glacier in West Greenland, famous for producing the iceberg that sank the Titanic, has now started growing again. Since the 1980s, water has been growing warmer around Baffin Bay where the glacier meets the sea. But recent NASA data reveal that in 2016, the ocean current grew colder. As a result, the ice of Jakobshavn Glacier has been thickening, flowing more slowly, and growing towards the ocean. The waters around the mouth of the glacier are now the coolest they've been since the 1980s. The journalists apparently didn't know that the glacier has actually been melting rapidly since 1851. The Jakobshavn Glacier melted 10 kilometers between 1851 and 1883. This obviously was not due to emissions from sport utility vehicles. But now the glacier is growing for the first time in a very long time. In 1903 it was reported, "Glaciers disappear. The ice in Greenland is melting more rapidly than it has formed." Comparison of the descriptions of the Jakobshavn Glacier show that its edge has receded 8 miles since 1850 and it's lost 20 to 30 feet in depth. The newspaper also reported that day that New Zealand had achieved ideal socialism. This would be disappointing to climate alarmists that ideal socialism didn't stop the glacier from melting. Climate journalists believe that the Arctic is hot and melting, and they also believe that Arctic air is extremely cold. This sort of contradiction is typical of the Orwellian doublethink of climate journalists. Climate journalists have no idea what they're talking about, and they simply parrot the propaganda which is being fed to them. I'm doing everything I can to set the record straight about climate. My climate videos have now had nearly 10 million views. A lot of people around the world have heard now about climate fraud. You can help set the record straight by passing my videos around to as many people as possible and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And visit Toto on the web at realclimatescience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science and propaganda for a long time.